Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, May 15th. My name is Alan. I want to welcome you to my Spiritual Growth Through Recovery podcast. The purpose of these videos is to grow my spirituality by following the AA program of recovery, and I do that by being honest, vulnerable, and accountable, which is why I make videos. I'm no expert in AA or spirituality or recovery. I'm just sharing my experience to try to live life on life's terms, and I do that sober. So the recipe we follow here is we read the daily reading out of the AA Daily Reflections book. There's a link in the description if you'd like to follow along. And I'll just share my take on the reading and usually some other topic. All right, well, let's get busy. Monday, May 15th. Topic is going to be no God, no peace, and cognitive dissonance. All right, May 15th. No God, no peace, as in K-N-O-W. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, the business of resentment is infinitely grave. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 66. No God, no peace, meaning no God. If you know God, you'll know peace. No God, no peace. So if there's no God, there's no peace. So pretty straightforward, really short reading today. I do want to touch on spiritual experience here, probably here in the near future. So I guess kind of my take on the reading was where it talks about the deep resentment only leads to futility and unhappiness. Now, once again, resentment means a bitter indignation or having been treated fairly. So someone you feel like you were treated unfairly, and you have this response, this negative emotion that follows up with that, right? Usually it's a feeling and a perception of what happens. Now the word resent means again, and dissent means to feel, so it's something where you feel again and again and again. Now here it's talking about only to futility, and that means pointlessness or uselessness, so it's wasteful. There's no value in it, but we do it, and that's the funny part. Spiritual experience is the solution, right? So if we know God, we'll know peace. And my truth is, I spend very little time seeking God. That may be my biggest reality of why I'm maybe not growing the way I need to grow. So, all right, I guess that's it for this reading. Hit me a little bit there. All right, so the topic I want to discuss next is called cognitive dissonance. And the reason I picked this one is because I feel like I experience this all the time. And the way I would describe it is the way we feel when our behavior is not aligned with our values or beliefs. I shared a little bit my core beliefs about integrity, humility, and sacrifice. But when I see myself not do those things, there's something in my spirit that moves me, and it kind of like, hey, what are you doing? And of course, we want to be cognizant of that and even somewhat critical of that, but we don't want to go over the top with it, and obviously I do that, so I'm not really sure. I struggle with that fine line, okay? And now some of the symptoms, if you have experienced any, if you feel discomfort, stress after an incident, anxiety, confusion, people may tell you you're a hypocrite, and being aware of conflicting views and not knowing what to do with them. I think our conscience and our spirit kind of knows right and wrong. That's when we don't behave that way, it moves us. That's kind of the point. And so I think when we experience it, that's kind of what's happening. So what are the consequences of just living different than what we want to live like, right? On one end, it can motivate us to make a change that'll produce consistent thoughts and behaviors, right? So in a way, it's positive to experience that. But it can be problematic if we start to justify or rationalize those destructive behaviors, which we use, that's kind of what we do, or if you start to stress yourself out by trying to rationalize the dissonance. So, I'm doing this because, they hurt my feelings, or I had a long day, or whatever that looks like. So we also want to be justifying what our spirit tells us is right or wrong. Now, when this goes unaddressed, it's just going to cause more unease, and like it talks about in AA literature, restlessness, irritable, and discontent, and so this can lead to wanting to use. And so I've experienced this a lot last year and a half or so. I believe that the toughest position to be in is where you need to make a change, but you see yourself not make the change, and that's kind of how I describe this. Why do we get this way? Well, I think we're selfish. We're unwilling to sacrifice or delay gratification. A lot of our character defects come into play, and they're always trying to compensate for something. And if you're religious, it could be, that Satan or sin or something like that, just, trying to not let you get healthy. It's kind of like the disease kind of doing push-ups in the parking lot. It's constantly trying to get you to get back to using it again. So what are the areas where I experience this the most? I would say I tend to quit on my commitments. I have good intentions, but then something happens where I'm like, I need to cope with how I feel more than I need to follow through on that. And that bothers me when I bail on commitments. I overpromise and I'll bail, right? I'm so consumed with how I feel, a lot of instant gratification, and I don't sacrifice. That can lead me to be dishonest, and I can choose drugs and escape more over everything else. And that does not feel good at all. So how do we become more aligned with those things? Well, I think when we feel those things, we need to stop and say, what's going on here? Write it down, identify it, and figure out what that is, and then we have to commit to changing about it. And I think if we work the steps, and that's kind of where we talk about, in the 4-step, talk with our sponsor, what we're struggling with, and then there's some accountability with that. But we must be honest with ourselves and others. If we're not honest and we're lying in our heads and we don't want to tell somebody, odds are we're not going to change. Now, we can either change our actions, or maybe our beliefs are messed up. So it doesn't hurt to just say, well, stick to your beliefs and change your actions. Well, maybe your belief system's not quite right either. So, anyway, that's my thoughts for today. I hope you had a good weekend. I hope your week is kicking off, going well. You have a good week. And I just want to encourage you to really evaluate, how much are you seeking God? And how much peace do you have? Maybe there's a correlation there. Book says it does, so we'll see. Anyway, be back tomorrow for another video. Until then, peace out.